Good morning, and welcome to Northwest, a Unitarian Universalist congregation. I am Diana Kohler. My pronouns are she and her, and I'm the worship associate today. Pastor Joshua Berg is delivering the sermon from California. We welcome him back into our pulpit. If you are a visitor online and would like Northwest to stay in touch with you, please fill out the visitor form you'll see in the chat box. If you are with us in person, you can fill out the visitor sign-in in the atrium. Please greet your neighbors with a wave from wherever you are. And then, before Alex begins the prelude, let's all take a couple of deep breaths and settle into a time of worship. The morning after the time change is always a challenging time to get here and feel oriented. So let's just breathe for a couple moments. We open with a land acknowledgement today. We collectively acknowledge that Northwest Unitarian Universalist Church occupies the ancestral, traditional, and contemporary lands of the Anishinaabe, the Three Fires Confederacy of Ojibwe, Ottawa, and Potawatomi peoples. In particular, the congregation resides on land ceded in the 1819 Treaty of Saginaw. We recognize, support, and advocate for the sovereignty of Michigan's 12 federally recognized Indian nations, for historic Indigenous communities in Michigan, for Indigenous individuals and communities who live here now, and for those who were forcibly removed from their homelands. By offering this land acknowledgement, we pledge ourselves to repair and justice for both the land and its people. As we light our chalice this morning, we do so with other congregations across the country and across the world. The Reverend Daniel Cantor wrote, "Arriving on these shores of hope, abandon your cynicism, your despair, your short view on humanity, and look up and see that we are not alone in our separateness. We are not forsaken or forlorn. We can be each other's dreams, unrestrained by desperation. We can see beyond the horizon of setbacks and defeat and know that others have journeyed farther than we have. They have seen so much and not lost themselves to resignation. Arriving on these shores of hope, embrace the here and now, the blessings and the presence of holy matters. Here now, we are together and stronger for it. Whether you are forlorn or uplifted, let us enter worship as if it was a new matter, a new day, a new chance at life."
As part of trans awareness, I have brought a story to read to you. It's called Me and My Dysphoria Monster by Laura Kate Dale, illustrated by Ang Hui Qing. Hello, my name is Nisha, and this is my monster. My monster follows me everywhere. When I go to the beach with my mom, when I am taking photos with my cat, even when I play hide and seek with my friends. My monster used to be small, but recently my monster has begun to grow. When someone refers to me as a boy, my monster grows bigger. And when people call me by a boy's name, my monster grows larger and larger. When I am told I must use the boys' toilets, my monster doubles in size. And when my teacher tells me I must play on the boys' team, my monster grows to be bigger than a giant. I don't like being called a boy. Something just doesn't feel right. And I really don't like my monster. I wish my monster would just go away. But my monster doesn't listen. My monster only listens to everyone else. Why are you so much taller than all the girls in the class? You're growing into quite the gentleman. You have such a deep voice. Girls don't have voices that deep, do they? And my monster grows and grows and grows until my monster is huge. It starts getting in my way. When I go to the beach with my mom, my monster doesn't let me swim. When my friends invite me to play, my monster doesn't let me join. I feel very alone. I no longer feel like myself anymore. And nobody seems to be able to scare my monster away. One day, my dad introduced me to one of his friends. Hi, my name is Jack, and his name is Jack, and he has a monster just like mine. Why do I have a monster, I asked. Why do I have a monster, I asked. Well, said Jack, when we are born, a doctor announces if we are a boy or a girl. But sometimes a doctor isn't right. Sometimes people are told they are a boy when actually that person knows they are a girl. Or sometimes people are told they are a girl when they know they are a boy. And for some people, they will grow up and not feel like a boy or a girl at all. But people will continue to call them a boy or a girl. What happens, people like you and me will get to visit from our gender dysphoria monster. Our monster is that little voice that knows who we are, and who we want to be when we grow up. And it doesn't like to be ignored. But how did you get your monster to go away, I asked. First, I told some adults about how I felt. I told them I was a boy and not a girl, and I wanted to use a new name and the pronouns he, him, his. They let me use the name, and I liked and let me change my clothes and hair, and most importantly, they made sure everyone knew that I was a boy. The monster still visits sometimes, but very rarely, and it's very small and quiet when it does. After speaking to Jack, I was very happy. I talked to my parents, and they stopped using my boy's name and called me Nisha. They used she, her, hers pronouns when talking to me. And they let me wear the clothes I felt most comfortable in. I was still the same person I had always been. I just changed some things so that I was happier about myself. And with every little change, my monster began to shrink. When someone called me a girl, I smiled, and my monster grew smaller. When I used the girls' toilets at school, my monster became smaller and smaller. And when they let me play on the girls' team, my monster shrank to the size of a pea. And while my monster still visits me sometimes, I don't mind seeing it every now and then, as I know what is trying to tell me. I began to swim in the sea again. I said yes to my friends when they asked me to play, and I started to become happier and a more confident person. And in time, I grew up to become the happy, smiley woman I always wanted to be. Now the choir will sing a song, Let There Be Music by Gordon Young. Now our children and their teachers will make their way to the nursery and room B for some activities. We're decorating some animal homes today and imaginary boxes, and we are doing some painting. So, Oliver, will you come on up? Do you want to do it? I don't know that Hannah or Jake would want to. Do you want to?
Maybe one of the teachers needs to.
Okay.
one purpose of a religious community is to encourage all who gather together to grow more generous in spirit and action. This is the great end of the world's faith traditions, to bring the human being closer to the divine by acts of creation and compassion. We now take an offering that allows us to exercise that generosity and will support both this congregation and its shared plate recipient, which in March is the Southfield Emergency Needs Fund. The goal of that fund is to help Southfield residents overcome personal hurdles to achieve a satisfying and productive quality of life. If you are with us virtually, you will see on your screen shortly a variety of ways that are going to be visible. And for those here in person, we are currently passing the baskets. We build our congregational community by sharing our greatest joys and deepest sorrows. Before we begin sharing with us as individuals, I want to acknowledge some congregational sorrows. Yesterday, we celebrated the life of Beth Rager, who died in December. Joan Berger, who has not been able to attend in a while, died on Friday, March 3rd. We will have a memorial service here for her on Saturday, May 13th at 11 o'clock. And the final sorrow that I will talk about today is that our choir director has received a diagnosis of ALS. And our hearts are with him, and our support, both emotional and in whatever we can do to make this time easier for you can. So I am going to light this candle. In acknowledgement of those sorrows, and hope the congregation will find many joys to balance that. Now, if you are on Zoom and you would like to share a joy or a sorrow, please raise your hand either virtually, or if you have your camera on, you can just raise it physically, and Alex will call on you and ask you to unmute yourself.
Ariana?
Yesterday was my first time out with friends in person in a long time. Ralph and Diana hosted a lovely service auction dinner last night. And then even after having company for dessert in their home and losing an hour of sleep, Diana's there as worship associate this morning. I am grateful for them and what they offer our congregation.
We're also very grateful for them. That was all the online.
If you are here in person and have a joy or a sorrow you would like to share, you can make your way to the mic up here.
My name is Martha. I just wanted to say I attended the service for Beth Rager yesterday, and it was joyful and beautiful and wonderful. I want to thank the choir, I want to thank Ben, and I want to thank Diana. If I have half as good a send-off when it's my time, I'll be happy.
Yesterday at, I'm Susie, and yesterday at roller derby practice, my daughter Amelia got to the second level of junior roller derby, which means that she can now have contact with other players, which is very joyous, but also a little worrying.
I have a joy that I have a year of sobriety as of last February 25th, which I may go back out and try the waters again. We'll see. But I just wanted to celebrate that 1 year. And also, I have, with that newfound sobriety, I feel better in my family, meaning Sheldon and I are in a better place than we've been in. We've recreated our marriage, and it's consistent. And so I'm really, really grateful for that. And I used to be a monster mom, which none of you would believe, but behind closed doors, I was very vicious. And I really love the kind of mom I'm turning out to be behind closed doors. So thank you for letting me celebrate that with you.
I'm Vanessa, and my dad is struggling with some physical issues, and my stepmom. I am challenged with knowing how to address those, and then what it means to be a good daughter and both take care of my dad and take care of myself.
Good morning. My name is Randy, and I have a joy to share. This last week in the Michigan legislature, the House passed what the Senate passed the week before, which was an extension of the Elliott Larson Civil Rights Act. And that means for the first time in all these years that people from the LGBTQ communities will have the same rights as the rest of us. So that, and Jeremy Moss, who will be here today, was the main sponsor of this legislation. So I've got a little card that I'm going to give to him, but of course you could say thank you to him as well. Thank you.
I'm coming out of my tech cave. My name's Alex, and yesterday we celebrated Jake's birthday. His birthday was back on the 1st of March, but we had some snow last weekend, and so it kind of pushed our plans back. We went axe throwing at the corner, Detroit Axe in Ferndale, and I got 5 bullseyes in a row, so I got a free t-shirt. It was so much fun. I didn't think I was going to be able to do it, but I did it, so strongly encourage for everyone.
I'm Cherry Hitchcock. I'm Lois's daughter, and my joy today is I got to wake up to my mother playing When Irish Eyes Are Smiling on the piano, which she used to do here every Sunday before St. Patrick's Day. So it was a wonderful way to wake up.
Let us pause for a moment to honor the joys and sorrows that we have heard and the joys and sorrows that we all carry in our hearts. Our next hymn is 1068 in singing the journey, I invite you to rise in body and spirit and join in singing. Our reading is Releasing Resilience by the Reverend Derek Jackson. I am tired of being resilient. It is hard enough navigating society as a Black gay male. Then add to it climate change and pandemics. Daily life is exhausting. I understand that sometimes things occur that call on us to draw on our resilience, but it should not be a way of life. It is not helpful nor healthy for us to be in a constant state of struggle. Eventually, it takes a toll on our mental, emotional, and physical health. In August 2022, NPR's Life Kit had an episode entitled Why You Should Stop Complimenting People for Being Resilient. It was an interview with therapist Dolores Follins, who shared that resilience comes from the institutions of slavery and colonization. Although framed as an expression of liberation, resilience is actually a tool of oppression. It praises us for succeeding against adversity without addressing whether the adversity should exist in the first place. Lourdes asks us to change our relationship with resilience and ask, what can we do to change these things that persons have experienced? What can we do to get rid of sexism? What can we do to get rid of homonegativity? What can we do to get rid of ableism? What can we do to get rid of economic deprivation? How can we get rid of those things which force people to be resilient? And so this year, I want to release resilience. I want to reshape and reframe the conversation so that we are not talking about how resilient we are, but what are the issues and systems that cause us to be resilient, and how can we fix those issues and systems? I want us to move away from the idea that we must survive as individuals and instead thrive through our communities. I pray that we may all be in a place where we can live our lives fully, just as we are, without constant threats to our lives. And he closes with this prayer. Spirit of hope, defiant goddess, caring God, in the face of adversity, open our hearts so we may name the hurt and pain, and then release them in the loving embrace of community. Surround us with care so that when we fall, we will be lifted up and carried forward. Holy ones, help us move from resilience to resistance, focusing not on what makes us strong, but on removing the systems that oppress us so that we may live fully, not existing, but thriving. Blessed be.
Thank you. Everyone, good morning, everybody. I'm delighted to be here. Even though losing an hour of sleep in Pacific time means that I had to be here at 6:30 a.m., but it's okay. I'm actually at work today, so it worked out well. I'd like to share my screen with you when I just starting to see if how many people remember this commercial. I'm going to play a few seconds of it. Let's see here. Share screen. Yes. Let's see if I can do it. There we go. Share sound. Okay. How many people remember this commercial?
In Japan, the hand can be used like a knife. But this method doesn't work with a tomato. That's why we use the ginsu. It's a knife that no kitchen should be without.
Hopefully you saw that. Was the ginsu knife commercial. Some of you 70s and 80s, people around in the 70s and 80s probably remember it. If not, it was, well, I'm just moving to my sermon script here. Apparently it was a knife that doesn't become dull. It doesn't break down. It lasts forever. But let me assure you, although the ginsu knife doesn't become dull, the human spirit does, especially doing the work our UU values commit us to. Burnout is common. And I'm talking about reaching a point of chronic exhaustion, a state of just despondency that begins to feel irreversible. The social action consultant, Kathy O'Bear, calls this type of burnout passion fatigue. So can you relate to that? Can anyone relate to that? How many of us are overcommitted? I'm not going to ask for a show of hands because I bet you're too tired to even raise your hands. How many of us have felt that our passion, especially for social justice work, fade? And not because we care less or it's less important to us, but because we're focusing too much on quick results or agonizing too much about the steps back rather than focusing on the steps forward. How many of us feel sometimes that just one person just can't really make a difference, or even that a community like ours can't make a dent in the larger social justice fight given the counter barrage of ignorance and anger and hate? That's passion fatigue. Social justice agents, like many of us are, all of us are especially prone to this despondency because there's a high level of compassion and caring, leading us to need to do it all, to say yes to everything, despite the fact that there isn't such a thing as a Ginsu person. One of Kathy O'Bear's workshop participants put it very plainly when they said, when everything is a priority, nothing is. Nobody can slice, dice, chop, and julienne without ever wearing down, especially after being battered and bruised again and again. Sometimes we find ourselves up against a tomato of a problem, and having worked ourselves to a dull nub, we have nothing to properly slice through it. However, I want to caution that passion fatigue is not an excuse to ignore the work that needs to be done, especially if one has the ability to step back and to sharpen their tool. It's not an excuse to give in, for instance, to white fragility or a self-satisfied complacency stemming from whatever level of privilege each of us might have. As Robin DiAngelo puts it, this isn't about giving up or even taking a break. It's about how to fight for justice from a position of internal strength. Honestly, how to do any of the work that we need to do from a position of internal strength. The reading we just heard, Diana read, communicated so eloquently that although resilience is necessary and it's helpful, many of us have no choice but to be resilient, forced into burnout through no lack of effort to prevent it just because of the world we live in, the society we live in. Therefore, those of us who can leverage our privilege to prepare ourselves for fighting the fight while avoiding burnout have the responsibility to do that. We must keep our tools honed, or we cannot change policies and systems that not only cause, but force others to a resiliency beyond reason. So let's commit to a constant regimen of the best self-care we can in order that we can care for others. Ask yourself, what amazing things you could do if you weren't so burned out. Can you imagine if you rid yourself of the guilty feeling that you're never doing enough? What things could you do better? I met, as an example, a mom here in the hospital where I work, Children's Hospital, LA, whose infant son was waiting for a heart transplant. And the heart finally came and they were excited. And she considered leaving his bedside before the procedure in order to spend time relaxing with her husband and her other son. And she felt so guilty, she told me, for even thinking of leaving his side, for doing such a thing at a critical time. But I reminded her how tired she'd been lately waiting for that heart. And that if she was going to be there at 100% capacity over the next few days and months, as he recovered after the surgery, she needed to rest and reset. Her self-care was for him as well. Just this week, I made an emergency appointment for 2 root canals, actually 2 days ago, because some chipped teeth I'd neglected for years got infected. I missed time with my patients at the hospital and my family over those few days because I put my own care off. They'd been chipped for years. Had I planned the procedures earlier, I could have done so on a timeline that wouldn't cause me to have neglected others. And I didn't borrow money from my family for these procedures through the years for pride reasons. But it turned out I had to swallow that pride even more painfully to borrow even more money at the last minute. I'm not a Ginsu person. Even the Ginsu knife is only guaranteed for 50 years, and I'm 52. So I know I said passion fatigue is chronic and intense, more than just one good night's sleep or, But missing sleep regularly adds up. And it's the simple habits in the short term that stave off burnout in the long term. It's about prioritizing what really matters, and that begins with your own self-care. The poet Audre Lorde said, "Caring for myself is not self-indulgence. It is self-preservation, and that is an act of political warfare." But wait, there's more. Today's talk won't just be a pep rally. I'm not Tony Robbins. If I wanted to make millions of dollars like that, I wouldn't have become a UU minister. But if I can generate critical thought that leads to action and transformative change, opening the way for all people to become as fulfilled as they desire on their own terms, equitably, then I'm rewarded with something much deeper, much richer, more valuable than money. What's more, only a UU minister can glean a theological lesson from a cheesy 50-year-old commercial for a Japanese steak knife. Take that, Tony Robbins. Life on earth, here it is. Life on earth is the sacred knife that does the work of making the divine salad. Whatever you consider divine, whether you believe in a God of the universe, or your divinity is the terrestrial and the celestial wonders of existence, or the ability within the human spirit to transform itself and society for the better. Whatever you believe is divine, we are the tools that do divine work. Or, if you prefer, we are the tools through which divine work is done. It's only through the lens of living creatures that Earth's beauty is recognized as divine. Miraculous change has never happened. Miracles, so-called miracles, whether you believe or not, they've never happened without the action and interaction of living beings, I contend. We are the knives. And since we are not Ginsu people, we have to make sure we are in the best repair possible, or that divine good, however you understand it, will not be manifested. Theology. But we can, and we also do harm, do harm. When that hand comes down on that tomato, it splatters everywhere. It makes a mess. And if our mental and spiritual and physical faculties are not tuned to a sharpened edge, when we do that work, we end up causing damage. And more than just squirting tomato pulp. Passion fatigue leads to frustration. It leads to anger, carelessness, so much more that does more harm than it does good. When you commit to just one more thing that has to be done, it just has to be done, and you suck it up and you just work through the pain and exhaustion, and sometimes you have to. Consider that you might be hurting others and making things worse if you haven't cared for yourself. And even in the process of genuine, heartfelt work, we can cause damage when we are less than mindful, when we are less than aware. If efforts to fix a broken system are ill-considered, the system may not only stay broken, it may break even more. Another of Kathy O'Bear's workshop participants, I have to meet these people in this workshop, put it well when they acknowledged, when I'm not my best self, I often show up in ways that perpetuate the very oppressions I'm committed to dismantling. And I can relate to that. Let me put it another way. If I hang a picture with a worn and a stripped screw, that picture is more likely to fall. It may hang for a little while, much more likely to fall. I wouldn't make a meal for my family with a rusty pan. Most of us have watched the 10,000 cooking shows that are on TV, at least one or two of them, so we know what happens when a knife becomes dull. It takes more pressure to use, to cut, and then it slips off the food easier, and it results in more cuts and more cut fingers. So if your mind, your body, and your spirit are worn, you get irritable more quickly, you jump to conclusions, assumptions, and you fall back on prejudices. When we are used up, we are quicker to fight, and we are slower to feel and forgive. When that happens, we slip easier and more often, harming ourselves and others. We are not Ginsu. but we can take care of ourselves as much as possible. You say, I can't afford a fancy knife, and the Ginsu is no longer only $19.95. Well, if I have a knife at home that's dull, I sharpen it. If something is broken, I repair it or I get another one. Even if all I had was a rusty pan or a stripped screw, I do my best to find alternatives that were cleaner, more stable. I'd save up over time to buy what I needed. I'd get the knowledge to fix what I needed over time, just as we'd never feed our family a rusty pile of tomato pulp. The love we share with all society, love that is interdependent, equitable, transformative, pluralistic, generous, and justice-oriented, that love deserves preparation with the best tools we have at our disposal and the tools in the best condition possible. I must take the time and make the effort to upkeep and fix myself in order to be able to fix the world. Some of us have the luxury and the privilege to do this by skipping work for a week or months or taking a vacation or buying an exercise machine, putting it in our home. But many of us don't. And even if you can only take a day off or a half a day here and there, or even if you just wake up 15 minutes early to take a walk outside, there are ways I believe all of us can upkeep and repair the tools that are our body and our mind and our heart and our spirit. Because if we're going to do the work, especially social justice work, without a spiritual and emotional whetstone to revitalize between actions, we're going to do ourselves and those we desire to help in injustice. The reality is that we will, at many points, still find ourselves overcommitted and worn out. It's the nature of life. It's the nature of the work. But the next time I'm going to load donations into a truck, for instance, I'm going to be sure to stretch before I lift. Last night, knowing I had to be up early to work and to preach, and that I'd lose an hour of sleep, I went to bed earlier than usual. It was an easy thing to do, but it allowed me to be present today for you and for my patients. Even given the high frequency of passion fatigue, I want to say I'm confident we know in our hearts that we can make a difference. We also know that transformational change takes time, commitment, and the ability to tolerate risk, pain, and setbacks. So we need to prepare for that. Kathy O'Bear wrote that this is a game of chess, not tic-tac-toe. But she also believes that all this hate and resistance we're feeling now is actually the last gasp of oppression before significant transformational change breaks through. So let me propose another commercial to replace the Ginsu commercial. Instead of in Japan. In America, the spirit can be used to end strife and sustain life. But this method doesn't work if it can't support its payload. That's because we don't have spiritual Ginsu. Our energy is spread thin, but humans can't run on electricity. You can recharge, however, if you know the worth of yourself and others. You can sustain if you're mindful of equity and pain and care for yourself and others as modeled by our divine ancestor, fathers and mothers. Heed Ayanla Vanzant, who said, life will let you get away with something for a while, but sooner or later you will pay the price. When you get the bill, be prepared to pay. So how much would you pay for a spirit like this? Before you answer, listen and hear. It even comes with a matching mind sharpener to make thinking a pleasure. Wait, there's more, there's much, much more. We'll give you multiple fancy tools to help the body and heart work together in strength. And you get our peeler that slivers liars, plus a grater that cares greatly even while it grates haters. All of this together makes beautiful relationships possible. Now, how much would you pay? You get a renewed heart, mind, spirit to keep slicing, dicing, and chopping unfair and violent systems in order to serve up justice. You get all of them for only the cost of spending the time to take care of yourself. It's the most incredible spirit offer ever. Don't accept imitations or limitations. Order now. Thank you. And with that,
Our closing words today come from Aitana O'Danner. The storm don't steer the ship. Storm may push it, toss it, rock it, roll it, crack it, even sink it. But it takes a knowing mind and a guiding sense to steer a ship toward safety. It takes a memory of the harbor haven to guide a body soaked in fear, pushing against the wind. It takes faith to hold out for the storm to run out of rain. We have a few announcements to share with you. Join us for our monthly potluck today in the multi-purpose room. And in addition, we have State Senator Jeremy Moss available after the service for informal conversations. He represents the 7th State Senate District, which includes Southfield. Grab a quick bite to eat and then come join Senator Moss in the sanctuary. Will people online be able to participate? Yes, you can. Canvas Gathering. Thanks everyone who attended the Canvas Gathering, the Canvas Kickoff Service and event last Sunday. We had so much fun. Check out the Flaming Chalice posters for your photos. Between now and March 18th, we will hold Canvas gatherings at a home near you and at church. See your invitation in your email from Sign Up Genius. We still have spaces available for an in-home gathering near you. There is another Canvas gathering after the service today in room C. And a little update from the Canvas Committee. We are making progress every day. As of this morning, we have responses from 36 pledging units, only 74 more to go. We have already raised $160,300 towards our goal of $275,800. This is a great start. There are still openings at those Canvas gatherings being held this week, and you can see Beata in the multi-purpose room to sign up. You can pledge via the link in the newsletter or request a paper pledge. You are strongly urged to pledge by next Sunday so we can finish off the canvas. On March 15th, which is this Wednesday, correct? We will have a door discussion, which is a dialogue on race and ethnicity, facilitated by Vanessa Washington and Mary Mueller, and sponsored by the 8th Principal Implementation Team. We're going to share our recent thoughts related to racism and anti-racist work. We'll also be learning about 2 examples of reparations and discuss the path to in practice of reparations. Bring a friend, and that's done virtually, so look for a link. And we are collecting school supplies for the Adler Elementary School in Southfield through next Sunday. Donations can be placed in bins in the atrium. Thank you all for being here in spite of the time change. I saw more than a few yawns. Now let's go have a potluck. Oh, sorry. No, now let's go listen to Alex and then